Hello and welcome back to the Daily Mail Facebook page. I'm Talia Varga, live from Sea Life in London, and I am joined by James Dobson. James, oh, there goes the tripod. James is the senior curator at Sea Life in London, and we're here in the penguin enclosure to meet the 8 new Gentoo penguins, aren't we, James?
Yeah, that's right. So we were just talking about why we did this. So Sea Life is part of a larger group, and we've got Gentoo birds all around the world, and we're part of a global breeding program. So some of these birds have come all the way from Australia, from New Zealand, from Denmark, and actually from America. So it's kind of come from all around the world, and it's part of a kind of larger database of tinder, essentially penguin tinder, and you kind of pick and choose. And we want to make sure the genetics are good, and we make sure we have good matches so they can produce chicks, and then those chicks will then go travel around the world to different places. And one of the things we're talking about is pairing up. So Gentoo penguins, they pair bond, so they form partnerships that can last 4 years and their whole lives, if everything goes well. And we've got an example here, so that there's a couple of you saying, how do you know if they're paired together? The two penguins nearest us on the edge here that are sort of sat facing each other, they're pair bonded together, they're bred together for a couple of seasons. And
how can you tell? So if you're a general member of the public that's come to look at the penguins and learn more about the penguins, how can you tell that these two have bonded? Because it's not a case of they're just walking down the street holding hands.
So we have a system with the bands on their arms. So if you look at, they've got coloured bands on their wings. On the right hand side we'll do the males, on the left hand side we'll do the females. So there'll be guides around the tank, so when you're looking at the enclosure there'll be little guides to tell you which ones are which. There'll also be clues, so we'll say, oh, you know, this particular one, Polly, is matched with this particular bird. So we'll give you obvious hints, but actually if you watch you'll see them tend to hang around together, and the male's always trying to impress the lady and sort of show him what a good penguin he is. So what they do is they regularly present pebbles, so he'll go and find the nicest pebble he can find, and he'll offer it to her, so he'll literally lay her at her feet, and if she approves she'll bow and say, oh, thank you for that pebble, and that will actually form part of their nest building. So when it comes into nesting season, so if you come back and visit us around Easter time, you're essentially going to see a lot of male penguins trying to impress females as much as possible by collecting all the best pebbles that we offer them. So we'll literally throw in hundreds and hundreds of pebbles, and they'll sort through them and only pick the ones that are most appealing to penguins. And it's a bit of a mystery art. We still don't really know which ones they'll pick and which ones they'll like, but he'll spend hours studying and picking out the best ones and offering it to her. But in between they'll do a lot of relationship building, so they'll stand next to each other, they'll often hang out together, and one of the key things they do a lot is they'll bow to each other.
Okay.
So, fingers crossed, if we're lucky we might see them bowing to each other, and that's just a sort of an acknowledgement of saying, you know, I love you, you love me, let's have penguin babies. And
is it just the men that bow, or are we an equal penguin society, and is everyone bowing?
They bow to each other, so the ladies are very clear when they have interest, and if they're not interested, the bowing will fail dismally. So quite interestingly, the penguins are lovely and fun, and that's what makes them really sort of interesting in terms of visiting them here. But they're not the sharpest tools in the shed, and they're not entirely distinguishing. So what they'll look for is they'll go, what's the best provider, or what's the most sort of useful bird that I can breed with, because they're thinking about genetics, they're thinking about producing healthy chicks, and actually the biggest, the strongest, the best providers in the enclosure are actually the keepers. So,
oh gosh!
So we end up with a lot of penguins trying their luck with the keepers, and they'll bow to them and they'll try it on, and they're like, well, you seem like a really nice penguin, and there's a lot of, you know, unfortunately we have to reject their intentions, and it's only then after that they might go and look for another penguin. So it's quite fun at the moment because we've got such a mixed group of sort of singletons now.
Okay.
They're all
being a bit floozy.
Yeah, it's a little bit of these extenders going on. So you've got the established pairs, and the established pairs, it's, you know, you're looking at my wife funny, and then amongst the singletons, it's a little bit like you know, the date nights, and they're all trying their luck, and they're all trying to impress each other with how great they are.
I am noticing that there was a love triangle there a minute ago, and one of them's just swam off.
That's it, yeah. So you'll sort of see them hanging out together, and if they feel you're encroaching too much, they will let you know, and there'll be a little bit of lovers' tiffs going on. It never gets anything particularly too aggressive, but it's more they want you to know that they're watching, and they're paying knowledge. And when it comes to nesting, so once they settle down and breed, we provide them spots where they can nest and breed and where they feel secure, and then we have to manage how we operate in that space. So we don't want to cause them undue stress, but if you get a little bit too close to them, even the keepers, the male penguin will let you know, or chase you off. So it's fun. It's like we're saying, it's toughest job in the world looking after these guys.
Oh, and they're just coming back over here, so let's head over here. If you're just tuning in, we're here live at Sea Life in London, meeting 8 new penguins. They're currently being fed breakfast. James. Oh, also, if you'd like to get any questions in for James, maybe you've got a penguin question or a question about sea life in general, James is here to answer those. He's the senior curator for Sea Life in London. You can also like or share this video. And James, so we've got the 8 new penguins, but how many penguins are actually within this exhibition?
So it's 16 in total now. So we had 8 before, and we had 2 established pairs, and so we had a group of singletons we wanted to match. And as part of that, so these came from the National Sea Life Centre in Birmingham, and originally those birds came from Europe, from within the group. So what we did is we said, well, we've got 4 singletons, we want 4 singletons that can match, and then on top of that they actually sent us a couple other pairs to come across. So now we've got 4 established pairs as a group, and then we've got essentially 8 single available birds. Actually, we can see that they're just doing that bowing we were talking about a second ago. So if we watch a little bit longer, there we go.
Oh.
So that's them
acknowledging each other. Okay, so how does this work though? Because there's 2 bows, there's 2 people bowing and only 1 not bowing. That's 3.
Yeah, so you can sort of see that's the 3rd wheel. So
that's the 3rd wheel. Okay. This is how the EastEnders storyline kicks in, right?
And now he's singing, so he's sort of saying, "Look, I'm a really good singer. Check out my singing." And then another female has just pulled up alongside and said, "I like your singing. Would you like to give me a pebble? You know, maybe we can go and have some fish somewhere." But these guys they're a very established pair. They're sort of bowing to each other, and they're sort of showing their love and doing it very sort of, I suppose, obviously in front of this larger male here. Okay. And he's one of the new ones, so he's just, you know, trying his luck with all the ladies in the room, but he's working out what the order is, who's matched to who, and you know, who he can try his luck with. And one of our females, so this is nearest to us on the big rock, is a new male, and then behind him, sort of flashing her very beautiful wings, is one of our single females. So she's like, "Oh, you know, I've been working out, I've been swimming, you know, I've been working on my lovely feathers." Doesn't appear to be massively interested, but no. They'll get a lot more interested as we get into the breeding season. So like I say, around March time, they're going to start nesting. The males are going to go absolutely crazy in terms of offering pebbles and building nests, and that's when we're really going to see.
So will you put the pebbles within the enclosure?
That's right, yeah. So we make them work for it. We do lots of things to do enrichment. So our keepers go in multiple times a day to sort of play with them and to move things around. So we put in ice, so there's real ice that goes in here and it sort of gets scattered around. It's just a nice bit of enrichment. We'll put food in the water. We'll physically go in with toys. There's certain toys they do like playing with and don't like playing with. But then as it gets into breeding season, they get a little bit more grumpy, a little bit more focused on the job in hand. And at that point, what we do is we hide pebbles all around the enclosure, and we make the penguins do the work. And they'll run from one end of the enclosure, pick out from a pile of 200 pebbles one they really like, and then they'll run all the way back to the other end of the enclosure to drop that pebble off at the nest, and they'll just do that all day long, and it keeps them incredibly occupied. And it's quite fun watching them because they are insanely particular about the difference between the 2, as far as I can see, identical rocks. But it clearly works because the ladies are very impressed with the choices they make, and if they're not, then they won't go onto the nest. So it's a really nice, there's always something going on in the penguin colony, and this is one of the really important things is these are colonial birds. They like to be in big groups, so if you keep them in smaller groups, they don't really show the behaviour you want to see. They won't breed, they're not going to be as happy, so we have to make sure that the group size matches it. And we were just talking earlier, they're not entirely the sharpest tools in the box, and because of that, as far as they're concerned, humans are part of that colony. So as the guests come in, actually these guys get more and more excited because they're like, "Oh, there's more penguins for us to hang around with," and they'll come to the windows and they'll sort of like, "Hello, are you a penguin I can be a friend with as well?" So it's really interesting. Probably the most exciting time of the day for them is the sort of morning time now, because we come in, they've already been probably awake for 2 or 3 hours before we arrive and the keepers come in. Then we feed them, so it's all, you know, it's good times. They get their favourite food. And then all of a sudden all their friends start turning up, so all the humans, and we start coming in, and it's when you see the real sort of fun and activity. And then throughout the day, you know, these guys will swim and play in the water, they'll play with each other, they'll have little lovers tiffs.
And are these two males here, or?
Yeah, they're 2 new males, yeah. So they're
having a little bit of a chat, aren't they?
Yeah, so
do you think they've taken the fancy of one woman? And
I think it's kind of, you know, boys at a disco or something. These 2 young lads together, and they're kind of
standing on the line waiting to be asked to dance.
And they're sort of building up the courage. Unfortunately, we don't offer Red Bull and vodka to these guys. They're going to have to build up their own sort of Dutch courage themselves, and unfortunately herring isn't quite as much of an aphrodisiac. So
absolutely.
But they've got beautiful feathers, so that should be enough anyway.
Of course. So a few people in the comments are talking about the environment within this space. So we've already seen them naturally bowing to each other, talking, acting very happy. Let's talk about the temperatures and the lighting again. So how have you created this space so that it feels as much natural habitat as possible for this breeding process?
So in terms of penguin husbandry across sort of any collection you're going to see, what you have to do is learn about the particular animal, so where they're found from, the exact habitat where they're from, and these Gentoos, what we did is we match our enclosures as closely as possible to what they have in the wild. So in terms of air temperature and light cycle and water temperature, we have systems, so all the air that comes into here is pre-treated, pre-cleaned. It's actually at a higher standard than hospital air. So we put it through a thing called a HEPA filter. It super sterilises and cleans the air, but then we chill it down and provide it, and it gets sort of injected into various parts of the room. So the air temperature is about 6 degrees or so, but that is a seasonal variation, so it can go up to about 12 degrees as we match it. And it is literally, if you go to the Falkland Islands, you're literally going to feel the same temperature there as you are here at the same time. And it'll be the same thing with the water and the same thing with the lighting cycle. So depending on the time of year that you'll visit us, you might see these guys in the dark. So if you come later on in the day when it's essentially midnight in the Falkland Islands, or dark in the Falkland Islands, it'll be dark in the enclosure, and you actually get to see a slightly different behaviour, which is the birds sleeping.
Fantastic. Okay, great. And so how long will when would we expect them to start breeding?
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. We can't force them.
yeah, that is definitely frowned upon. It is with sort of about March time, Easter time. It is usually about time. So a little bit later than sort of spring, I suppose, if you think about it in those terms. But if you keep an eye on our channels, so if you look at our Facebook pages and our Twitter feed, we will definitely be talking about it as the sort of drama unfolds in the enclosure, and as they nest and as they settle down. We're going to be telling people about it, making sure you don't get a chance to miss out on any of the sort of interesting love triangles that will definitely.
So we could see some chicks by Easter.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. You can never say anything with animals, but we've got successful breeders, we've got established couples, and we've got a bunch of very young and beautiful new penguins that are here to do that job. So if we do everything right, they hopefully will do everything right, and that hopefully will mean we'll have loads of beautiful baby chicks.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Jay. So we've been live here at Sea Life in London, meeting the 8 new penguins and learning all about the breeding programme. James was just saying there that we might actually see some new baby chicks by Easter. So keep an eye on their Facebook page, where they'll keep you updated throughout this breeding process and see how they're all getting on. Head on over to the mailonline.co.uk for all the latest news, pictures and video.